We are Southeastern 16. I'm Chase Robinson. As we're going to talk some Oklahoma football today. The big Red River Rivalry coming up this weekend. Oklahoma and Texas, always a fun time. And Chris Planky is with KREF out in Oklahoma, as well as the Sooner Radio Network. Chris, always great to talk with you. How are you doing?
I'm on the road to Dallas, baby. So I had to
All
stop
right.
so I could talk to you, and no better time to get down there than early.
That's right. And I'm so excited that this is now an SEC rivalry game. It's a game I've watched just as a college football fan, and now to get to have it a part of the SEC, such a fun rivalry. And I know getting to play it in Dallas is cool. But just take us through for maybe the SEC fans that are watching who aren't familiar with this rivalry and what's at stake here with Oklahoma, Texas. Tell us a little bit about this rivalry.
Bragging rights, baby. It's bragging rights. These are two programs that have played since basically football was invented. So, you're going back to whenever laces were put on the footballs, for goodness sakes. And there's always been this, I think, respect, for what it means to both states and what it means to both universities, but this burning desire to beat the snot out of the other one come that second Saturday in October. And, it's been in the Big 12, it kind of vacillated a little bit between the first Saturday and the second Saturday, but it's really cool that now that we're in the SEC, it's on the second Saturday in October. It's been an 11 a.m. Central Time start for a while, and it's kind of cool to see it at 2:30. But, despite the start time to start the weekend, there's one thing that's unchanged, and it's that it's been one of the biggest games in college football because it's two teams that have been playing for something. Texas has been the king of the offseason hype, and understandably so. They've done a great job in recruiting, and by God, they've come off a heck of a season, and they're off to a fiery start. But Oklahoma has consistently won this rivalry. In the last 20 years, it's been Oklahoma that has won this football game. And that's not me trying to pick at Texas fans or anything. That's just the reality of it. I mean, if you were to listen to the pregame hype, you would think that Texas has won 20 straight games, and Oklahoma has never won a game in this. Meanwhile, the Sooners just won it last year and have won, I think, 4 of the last 5. And it brings out the best in both schools and both programs. So the best way to describe it is pure chaos. I don't even know what could be similar to half crimson and half burnt orange. It's an awesome setting, and everyone's into it. It's a fun weekend. It's big for recruiting. It's big for state pride. It's big for school pride. It's one of those games that when you go to it and when you're a part of it, you feel like you're in the middle of something pretty special.
Yeah, that is definitely on my bucket list of games to go to one day, and I hope I can get out there.
Oh, yeah. You gotta be there, man. It's awesome.
With it being a neutral site, I mean, what's it like playing there at the Cotton Bowl? Is that something, you get into some of these rivalries and some teams want it to be on campuses or everything. Is that something that both teams like, being a neutral site?
Early on in the Stoops era, you go back to the late, Bob was only here for 1 year in the 90s, but I felt like in the early 2000s, there had been some buzz about, maybe even Texas Motor Speedway getting involved in it. And then you had Jerry World that jumped in the middle of it. But it's just, I was even someone very early in my career that said, last I checked, the Cotton Bowl was still in Texas, and that's where Texas is. But, credit, and I think it goes to the city of Dallas and to the Cotton Bowl, because they've really worked hard to make the necessary improvements to maintain the ability to host an event like this. There's only 2 or 3 football games played in the Cotton Bowl anymore. I mean, that's it. SM used to play their home games there in the 90s. No one plays there regularly anymore. There's a handful of concerts, and that's it. This is the biggest game in the Cotton Bowl every single year, and honestly, one of only 2 or 3. So it makes it such a unique place, but also a place to where if Dallas or if anyone involved with the Fair Park, anyone involved with the Cotton Bowl is like, yeah, this is what it is. So you got to deal with it. Everyone would probably be like, okay, we get it. There's only a couple of games here, but we're taking it to Jerry World, or we're going to go home and home. So I don't think it's going anywhere for a really long time. There have been talks about it whenever the Cotton Bowl hadn't made the necessary improvements. And like I mentioned, whenever you had other entities that were trying to bring it to bigger venues. But yeah, it's the perfect setting for this game. And I hope the improvements that are being made out of it, they redid the press box level this year. They have some more suites. They've constantly reevaluated the way in which the concourse is laid out. They've improved the bathrooms. I mean, I know those sound like little things to people, but for fans that go to games, it's huge. And I think that's a big deal to show just how important this is, that they've invested the time and money into making this a viable place to host a big-time football game.
We are Southeastern 16, talking SEC football, as we do here on the channel. And we are brought to you by BetOnline. They are the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. If you think you know your stuff, you can get in on a $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, you can go to the online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head over to the website today to get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. Let's talk some Oklahoma football. Sooners 4-1. You look at the season. I mean, just a plethora of injuries that have plagued Oklahoma this season. I feel like it could look much different, even with it just being 4-1 season. When if you didn't sustain some of these injuries, where do you see Oklahoma football at right now here on the 9th day of October?
Well, hopefully the offensive line is getting healthier. You go back to the start of this season, and the game against Auburn was the first time that every player that was at the top of the depth chart in the opening weekend depth chart, leading into the opening weekend, it was the first time that all 5 started a game. And that was huge. Jake Taylor hadn't played the right tackle. He'd been dinged up, and he had a really, really good off season. So there was a lot of hype and excitement around him. So he's back. We'll see how healthy he is. Branson Hickman's back at center. So they need to be healthy on the offensive line, because that's been a hodgepodge of different faces and different skill types. And unfortunately, it hadn't really meshed. It was a little bit better against Auburn, but now at least you feel like everyone's healthy. Receiver, they've been decimated. I mean, you're talking about 1 through 5 out. Top receiver Nick Anderson has played maybe 5 snaps all year. Deion Burks got hurt against Tennessee. I don't think he's going to be back this weekend. Jane Gibson out for the year. Jalil Fruch likely out a little bit longer. So, you're going down that depth chart and you realize, ooh, we're getting like the 5th guy on the depth chart now. And thankfully that 5th guy had a big game against Auburn, or there would have been a big trouble in J.J. Hester. So they're getting healthier on the offensive line. Deshaun McCullough, one of their defensive guys, hadn't played at all this year, but he's going to play this weekend. So that gives them another pass rusher. And he had a big game last year. Did Deshaun McCullough, the Indiana transfer in the OU Texas game. So, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this in one position getting decimated like the Oklahoma receiving corps has. And then prior to that, the way the offensive line has been decimated. But on the good side of it, it looks like they're starting to get healthy on the offensive line. We'll see how long it takes to get there with the receivers. But I'll tell you what, Michael Hawkins is a dude that's shown he can create with his feet. And as long as he doesn't turn the football over, I think they've got a chance to be in any game. But the great news is that the offensive line is getting healthy. The bad news, man, it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight to bringing back that depth at the receiver position that they desperately need.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Michael Hawkins, because I feel like watching that Auburn game and the way he ran in that game, so the passes, especially late in the game, that deep pass that he made, really impressive. Like, what do you feel like he brings and he has brought to kind of give this team a little spark offensively?
He doesn't have a lot of fear. Now, he's a true freshman. He's only started 1 game, so it's a very small sample size. But there wasn't a part of him that ever looked shook or ever looked like he was worried about the moment. So that impressed me about him. He is a much better passer than I think people give him credit for. But in that same vein, you got to show it, right? You got to show it. He had on a couple big plays on 2 Saturdays ago against Auburn. But what he provides that maybe Jackson Arnold didn't, and maybe even Dylan Gabriel didn't, is there is a different level as a runner. It's more Kyler, and I'm not comparing him to Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray was a guy who could probably play running back and just happened to have an elite arm. I mean, hell, he was the number 1 pick in the draft. So he's got that kind of escapability, and he's got a lot to learn, but there is not, he was made for this moment, if you will. His dad was an NFL player with the Cowboys. He grew up in the Dallas Cowboys locker room with guys like Jason Garrett and Jason Witten as people that he learned from. So he's just a very calm, cool dude. I say he reminds me of Kyler, not just that he can run, but in his demeanor, right? Baker was the overly fiery guy. You turn to Baker whenever he needed to be jacked up. Kyler was very even keel. Jalen Hurts, very even keel. And Michael Hawkins reminds me a lot of that too. Jackson Arnold was pretty even keeled, but, unfortunately, he just turned the ball over too much. And as long as Oklahoma protects the football, I think they got a chance, man, to be in about any game this season. But when they turn it over, they're in big trouble. You got a small margin for error when you have an offense that seems to struggle like theirs does in moving the football. So as long as he protects the football, he can make some play with his legs. And I think that's going to be a big difference maker for Oklahoma if they're going to have a chance on Saturday. They need Michael Hawkins to protect the football and make plays with his legs.
Texas dynamic offense. I really like what I've seen, though, from Oklahoma defensively. It's kept them in a lot of games. I thought they did well against Tennessee. Your thoughts on the defense of Oklahoma and this matchup against Texas's offense?
Yeah, people that are a lot smarter about defense are saying things that'll get you fired up as an Oklahoma fan, that they like the matchup against Texas's offense. I don't know. We'll see how that pans out. I mean, there's been times whenever I've gone into this game and I thought, oh, my gosh, there's no way that Oklahoma's going to move it against Texas or vice versa. And the team that I thought would struggle runs the ball all over them. I mean, this game makes no sense whatsoever in the way that it plays out. But I do like the matchup for Oklahoma defensively. Here's the thing is I don't really truly know Oklahoma's cornerbacks. It's kind of wild, man. Gentry Williams is hurt, and I don't know if he's coming back this season. And heading into this year, some would argue he might have been their number one cornerback. And if you go back in years past, if Oklahoma had lost their number one cornerback on their depth chart, there would be panic. There'd be panic in these streets. And they're so confident in the depth that they actually took one of the guys at corner and moved into wide receiver in Jacoby Johnson, which is wild to me. So I bring that up just to say I really think Texas, if they can get Quinn Ewers some time, and I assume it's going to be Quinn, I think they're going to try to take some deep shots. I think that's where Oklahoma has shown maybe there's a little bit of vulnerability, but very little. If you get after the quarterback, you can affect that. But in Des Malone and in Kenai Walker and in Woody Washington, the three corners who have seen a lot of snaps, Eli Bowen, Peyton's little brother, they've shown an ability to stay solid even when they make mistakes. And I know that was a big point of emphasis for Oklahoma, which is trying to eliminate explosive plays. And it's been, go in the Auburn game, couple big explosive plays, the Tennessee game, couple big explosive plays. Those were the difference in the games. Now Oklahoma was able to overcome it against Auburn, but yeah, that's a big thing for me with this Oklahoma defense is getting after the quarterback, making him uncomfortable, and then your corners staying sticky. Because I was one of the biggest people to question how Texas's offense was going to look without all the dudes they lost in the NFL draft. And don't get me wrong, they lost some guys. I mean, you're seeing it now with Xavier Worthy in Kansas City and A.D. Mitchell out in Indianapolis. So they were good players, and they're going to be good players in the NFL. But Stark's always found a way to find room for dudes, and I don't think it's any different with Isaiah Bond and what he's been able to do for him. So I think it's going to be quite the test for the Sooner corners this weekend. And then in that, the line and getting after the quarterback and minimizing the run game for Texas.
Now, this is a series, we were talking about the Oklahoma-Texas series earlier, but this is a series that had really, since the year 2000, Oklahoma has almost dominated the series. A lot of wins for the Sooners. For that to take place again Saturday in Dallas, what are some things to you that Oklahoma needs to do to beat Texas?
Yeah, this is going to sound very cliche, but don't turn the ball over. And then in that win the turnover battle, last year, Oklahoma turned Texas over 3 times and didn't turn it over themselves, and that was the difference in the game. So win the turnover battle. Here's another thing. Every year, Chase, there's a big special teams play in this game. Every year. If it's a game-winning field goal like 2021. If it's game-winning field goal, Kyler year. So every year in my life is by Oklahoma quarterbacks, okay? So 2018, the game-winning field goal by Texas. 2019, Texas blocked a punt. Texas blocked a punt for its first touchdown last year. Alex Ross had a big kick return that led Oklahoma to a win in the mid 2010s, 2011. So you've got to be sharp in special teams. And I know it's not something that drives a lot of our content. No one wants to hear about punters or field position or kicker battles, but there's going to be a big special teams play at some point in this game. And everyone's going to look back and go, that really changed the course of this game. It happens every single year. So win the turnover battle, be good in special teams, and then the team that wins the rushing battle usually wins this game. And Oklahoma has not been very good running the football this year. Now, maybe Gavin Sawchuk gets going this weekend. I don't think Taylor Tatum's going to play for Oklahoma. Javante Barnes has been running it pretty well, but could the Oklahoma offensive line and its consistency now of working together for 3 weeks. Could it open up some more holes? Maybe. This Texas run defense is really good. But those are 3 areas that if I'm just a college football fan, I think fits for both sides. Win the turnover battle, win the rushing battle, and make a big special teams play, or at least be consistent and good at special teams, because that to me is where this game is won every single time the Red River Rivalry takes place.
Well, it should be fun. I'm excited to watch it. Chris, appreciate your time today. Safe travels there to Dallas, and enjoyed talking some Oklahoma football with you.
Yeah, man, thanks. I hope that things stay smooth. Traffic has been good, and we'll make sure that river runs red come Saturday.
All right, good deal. Thanks, Chris. Chris Blank with the Sooner Sports Network as well as KREF Radio joining us. We are Southeastern 16, your destination for all things SEC football, basketball, and baseball. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be recapping this game following the game Saturday night. And it's the best way to do that. Again, subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends. We are Southeastern 16, presented by Bet Online.